What's up, everyone? Justin here to do a new Let's Talk About It show. Let's talk about it. The new NFL Films and Prime Video documentary on Barry Sanders, one of the best fucking NFL running backs of all time. In my opinion, he only played about 10 years, or close to 10 years. Or 9 or 10 years, whatever. He's drafted 89, I think. So, retired in 98 season. But my guy, he's a hell of a running back. One of the best I've ever seen. And he was absolutely a Hall of Fame running back. Sadly, never got to a Super Bowl. Never won a Super Bowl. Guess why? Because he was on the pathetic Detroit Lions. And they were not very good. Without Barry Sanders, they were the shits. And most of his years, they didn't make the fucking playoffs. Even with Barry Sanders, they could still not make the playoffs and have winning seasons a lot of the time. I'm not going to go over the whole documentary and every single aspect and stat in his career. And I'm not going to go over the Detroit Lions' history with them. I don't know how many years they made the playoffs with him. I'm not an expert on the Detroit Lions. I am an expert on the Green Bay Packers, my team. Grew up in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, watching them, loving them. So I dropped my notes again on this documentary. Let's talk about it. Bye Bye Barry. Again, it's on Prime Video. It's an NFL Films Prime Video documentary. I think it came out last Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thanksgiving. I actually watched it on Thanksgiving morning last week. So first, I didn't really know this when he was drafted. I didn't really pay attention. I was a young kid in 1989 NFL draft. I was 5 years old. I didn't know it. I didn't follow football in 89. I was too young. I didn't really pay attention enough. I was a Packers fan, but I didn't pay attention enough at 5 years old to know when great players were getting drafted. I didn't start paying attention until about 92 is when I started watching the NFL full time. And every Green Bay Packers game since 92, I've seen all of them just about live as they happen. So he was drafted number 2. I believe he was the number 2 pick. If I'm wrong, I apologize. You can look it up on the internet. Barry Sanders was drafted number 2 in the 1989 NFL Draft. And the Packers could have fucking picked him. Seriously. Also, Troy Aikman was in the NFL Draft, and he was drafted on number 1 in 89 by the Cowboys. That worked out well because he won 3 fucking Super Bowls with the Cowboys. But it wouldn't have worked out probably until the Cowboys got Jimmy Johnson. Then it's when they really started their dynasty. And for Cowboy fans out there, I'm sorry, but they haven't won a Super Bowl since 94 season. 1994 Super Bowl, or 95 maybe. 49ers won in 95 or 96, I believe. But seriously, Cowboys haven't won a fucking Super Bowl since 95, I believe. I think 95. That's almost 30 years. That's 28 years ago. Unreal. So yeah. The Cowboys had a great run in the 90s, but that's about it. And I believe in the 80s or 70s with Roger Staubach. I know a lot about the NFL and its history, but not everything. But I'm just a huge fan of the NFL and football. I always have been, and football has always been my number one sport. So I really enjoyed this documentary by Barry. That's why I'm talking about it. Let's talk about it. So definitely being the number 2 pick. Again, Troy Aikman was number 1. I believe Barry Sanders was number 2. Number 3 went to the Green Bay Packers. They're the pick, I think. And seriously, Packers, why didn't you fucking pick Barry Sanders? Damn. Damn you, Packers. You could have had Barry Sanders on the Packers. Then you would have got Brett Favre in 92. And then Reggie White. Holy fuck, that could have been a dynasty. The Packers with Brett Favre, Reggie White, Barry Sanders. I mean, the good defense and Antonio Freeman, Robert Brooks. That could have been a dynasty for the Packers if they would have drafted Barry fucking Sanders, because he was that good. He was on a shitty, bad team, and the Detroit Lions, they were fucking bad. They were horrible. They were a god-awful team when he was drafted there. They were bad, but holy fuck, he lived up to the hype. Definitely, he won the Heisman Trophy also, I think in 88 or 89, 88, he won the Heisman. He definitely lived up to the hype. He had no ego. I mean, a lot of these notes I had to write down. The guy had no ego. Barry Sanders was super humble with no fucking ego. He didn't want the attention on himself and all the accolades. He didn't care. He just wanted to fucking play football. Every time he'd score a touchdown, for example, Barry Sanders would just throw the ball, throw it up, referee would catch it, throw it to the ref. Every time he scored, he threw it up to the ref. I couldn't do that. If I was in the NFL, I would spike it. I'd do crazy celebrations. Because seriously, that's what every kid dreams of. When you're playing football growing up, you always celebrate if you score. You always want to spike the ball. I know I did when I played. I didn't play any football leagues or high school football. None of that. I'm just talking about playing a street football on grass, tackle football with a group of friends. And every time I scored, I would spike it or celebrate. But Barry Sanders did not. As I said, how do you live up to the hype when you're the number 2 pick and you're a great running back? Well, he did live up to the hype, for sure. Week 1, first game, Barry Sanders, first game in the NFL, 1989, week 1. He wasn't put in the game, I think, until after halftime or the fourth quarter he was put in. It was against the Cardinals. His first carry in the NFL, he went for 19 fucking yards in his first ever carry in the NFL. He ran for 19 yards. The fans before that were chanting. It was in Detroit. They were chanting, Barry, Barry. They wanted him in the game. And then he got put in the game and he started taking over. That's impressive. First run ever in the NFL for 19 yards. And then, my God, in 1989, there might have been a 12-game, I don't know about 12-game, but 14-game season only. And then it went 16, and now it's 17 or 18 games. I think it's 17 now. But back then in 89, it had to be about 14-game season only, or maybe 16. But seriously, for either 12, 14, 16 games only, Barry Sanders in 1989 ran for over 1,000 yards. And he could have broke, I believe, the rookie record in the rushing title. He could have won it as a rookie. In 89, he needed only 9 yards. He only fucking needed 9 yards. That's insane, but they said in the documentary. He only needed 9 yards to break the rushing, get the rushing title. But he didn't want it. He kept himself out of the game because they were way ahead. He said no, he didn't want to go back in the game for some reason. I don't know why, but that was Barry Sanders. Very humble. So then let's skip to, and we hear from a few celebrities and famous people. Some from sports, media, the legend Dan Patrick was a part of the documentary. Tim Allen, the actor, and Eminem, Detroit native. Eminem, the rapper, all-time great rapper, legend, Eminem. He's in the documentary. He's in it pretty much, talking about Barry Sanders. Putting over Barry Sanders, as he should, as every NFL fan that watched Barry Sanders, you had to be blind to not see he was a great, great running back. Just one of a kind. The guy was just insanely talented, one of the greatest running backs of all time. I think he's better than Jim Brown. And Barry Sanders' father said to him, Barry Sanders was the number 3 running back. Jim Brown was 1. His father said he was better than Barry Sanders. He was number 2, and Barry Sanders, he said, was number 3. What the fuck? His own father said that. That's tough, and that's just a ton of ball busting with your own son. What the fuck? To me, Barry Sanders was way better than Jim Brown. Yes, Jim Brown was a Hall of Fame running back. I agree. He was great. But Barry Sanders was better, to me. I didn't get to see Jim Brown play live. I wasn't alive. But I got to see Barry Sanders, and in my opinion, he was better than Jim Brown. He's better than Walter Payton. He's better than Emmitt Smith, to me. Seriously, for the time Barry Sanders played in his short career, wasn't that short, but it was short because he retired when he was in his prime still. For that time, Barry Sanders was and still is the greatest running back of all time. How he ran the ball. He was unfucking stoppable. So we hear from the celebrities and Dan Patrick about Barry Sanders. 1991, he had a great season in 1991. 1991, they were in the playoffs, I believe. And it was insane. I think they got to the playoffs in 91, I believe. But Barry had a great season in 91. Sadly, they didn't get to the Super Bowl. 91, 91. I got a lot of notes here about Barry. He looked short. Like he was really short. I don't know how short he is. 5'8", 5'9", I'm not sure, but he looked short. To me, he was short, but holy fuck, he was thick. He had insanely strong legs. His legs were massive. They were fucking huge and thick and muscular. So he had that going for him. Who cares if he was short? He could not be tackled. It was it was impossible almost for him to get tackled. He would stay on his feet and keep running and not get caught. So 91 playoffs, the Lions took on the Cowboys. They defeated the Cowboys. They destroyed them. 38-6. 91 playoffs. NFC Championship in 1991. They lost. they lost the Lions to the Redskins, Washington. Redskins, I'm not going to say the name again, but it was a very stupid name and offensive. But they lost to Washington, who would go on to win the Super Bowl in 91. And seriously, it wasn't Barry's fault that they lost the NFC Championship to Washington. To me, it wasn't Barry's fault at all. He was just around, not a great team. Barry could not do everything. He couldn't play defense. He couldn't play quarterback. So then, 1992, they had a pretty good season. I think it was a 92 or maybe 93 season. I remember it was in Green Bay. It was really cold, I believe. It was either a 92 or 93 season where the Lions and Barry went to Green Bay and he rushed for like minus yards. That was insane. The only team ever to get Barry Sanders to rush for minus yards were the Packers. I believe it was 92 or 93 season. Maybe it's 91 season. I don't know. One of those years. So then they got in the playoffs in 93. Detroit Lions and Barry got to the playoffs in 93. They were doing well until the last few seconds. I remember this game well. Last few seconds, Packers, Brett Favre throws a bomb to Sterling Sharp in the back of the end zone. Packers win the wild card playoff game. That was insane in 93. So Barry again was sent home in the playoffs. The guy was in a sadly, Barry Sanders was part of a bad organization. Not a good winning organization. And not great quarterbacks. He never had a great quarterback ever. Never ever did he have a great quarterback with him playing. Because Detroit, I don't know, wouldn't spend the money or wouldn't trade or wouldn't try to get great quarterbacks. It's like they didn't give a fuck that they had Barry Sanders. Very sad. That's truth. The Lions, back when they had Barry, you fucked him over by not giving him a great, great team around him. Now, some years they were really good, but they couldn't get to the Super Bowl still. Seriously, the Lions did not have a ton of great players around Barry. A few, Chris Spielman, Herman Moore, Rodney Peete is their quarterback. He was good, okay, I guess. He wasn't great. He was good. Scott Mitchell was okay. Not great. But that's the only guys I can think of that were good. Herman Moore, Rodney Peete, Scott Mitchell, and Chris Spielman, the linebacker. The Lions as an organization didn't, I don't know, it's like they didn't care enough. They didn't build a great team around Barry. And they should have, because they let him down and they let down their fans. And I just said, imagine, he never had a great quarterback. Imagine if Barry, just imagine if Barry was a part of the Packers or the Cowboys in the 90s. Insane. He probably would have won a Super Bowl with the Packers for sure, and probably with the Cowboys. Again, 88. Let's go back to his college days. 1988, his college career in 88 was insane. He had insane numbers, a great year in 88. He ran for 2,628 yards. He had 37 touchdowns, NCAA records. I don't know if they still hold up today, but those are great numbers. And in 88, he won the Heisman, but he didn't want it. He really didn't care. He didn't even show up to the ceremony. He was somewhere else. like via satellite, on a video. So let's go to 97. They fired their coach in 96. His name was, I believe, Wayne Fontes. I always thought he looked kind of funny. He was a little fat guy. He was a decent coach, I think, but they fired him. And I don't think Barry was happy. 97, the Lions hired a new coach, some guy named Bobby who? I don't know who the fuck he was. He was from college, I think. So then in 97, at the end of 97, Barry Sanders was very close to the all-time rushing record. He was number 2. He would have definitely got the record before Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith, I believe, got the record in 2002 when he was with the Cardinals. That was sad and weird when Emmitt was a Cardinal. But, yeah, Barry in 97 was close to the all-time rushing record. He would have got it way before Emmitt. If he had played like 4 to 5 more years, he would have had his numbers way up, I bet. So in 97, versus the Jets, to get to 2,000 yards rushing, hell of an accomplishment in the NFL. Very few have done it. 2,000 yards in a season. In 97, he needed 53 yards versus the Jets, Week 17, 1997 season. And Barry got to 2,000 yards. Hell of an accomplishment. And then in 97, he started, after the season, I don't think they made the playoffs in 97. If they did, I apologize. Again, I'm not a Lions expert. I just was a fan of Barry Sanders and knew a lot about what he did. So, 97, he said he was thinking about hanging it up. He was really thinking about retiring, he told a friend. And that was insane. And Barry was pissed after 97 because everybody on the Lions that was any good, they let him go and they were not going to bring him back. They went to other teams and won Super Bowls. The players that were with Barry actually went to other teams, Denver and I think the Ravens, and won Super Bowls. So that probably pissed off Barry even more, that he was stuck with a losing bad organization that just let good players go. And then they won Super Bowls and he did not. So then 98, he comes back in 98. He just, 98, he had some just great runs. He was great in 98. But the Lions, in my opinion, killed his passion big time. They fucking killed his passion. And the final game, 1998 season, Week 17 versus the Ravens, he was done. He said after the game he knew it was over. He knew it was over. And he started telling old teammates and friends, I think I'm going to retire. After 98, they probably didn't believe it. And how could you? The guy was in his prime still in 98. I think he could have played till like 2003 probably or longer. So then after the season, 98, again, the Lions don't make the playoffs because he's with a shitty organization that just had idiots running it. Not great coaches. At least, the Cowboys won because of Jimmy Johnson. They got their 3 Super Bowls because of Jimmy Johnson and their great Hall of Fame players and Jimmy Johnson. Packers got their 1 Super Bowl because they had a great coach and Mike Holmgren. And they had Hall of Fame players on the team. And other teams, San Francisco, I think they only got one Super Bowl in the 90s, I think. Or maybe two. I don't remember. But yeah, San Francisco is a great organization in the 90s. The Packers were and the Cowboys were. Everyone else, I guess the Broncos were also in the late 90s. But the teams in the 90s were the Packers, the Cowboys, and San Francisco, in my opinion. And everyone loved the Cowboys, but not me. They pissed me off. They broke my heart, and they got under my skin. Because every time the Packers would get in the playoffs, they would lose to Dallas. In Dallas. That just always broke my heart as a fan. I hated it. Watching it, man, would I get angry. I was about 11 or 12 or 13. And they just kept losing to the Cowboys, and it just kept pissing me off even more. And I really hated the Cowboys in the 90s. I don't hate them anymore, but I really did growing up. Because they kept taking out the Packers. Seriously, if the Cowboys weren't around, I think the Packers could have won 2 or 3 Super Bowls. At least. So then Barry goes, after the 98 season, he was only 31 years old. 31 only. Barry Sanders goes to a trip to London in the end of 98, and he knew he was going to retire when he was there. And he sent a fax that he was retiring. The sports world couldn't believe it. Everybody was shocked. Fans in Detroit were fucking pissed. They're pissed. They're mad as hell at Barry. And I don't blame them. It's like you have a franchise player in his fucking prime and he retires on you as a fan. That'd make you angry. And Detroit was angry at Barry for a long time, I'm sure. So he went to London on a trip in 98. Then the documentary shows he's with his sons in London on a trip. And it's 2023 now. And he's talking with his sons. And, yeah, he's telling his sons, they start asking him, why did he retire? And what if he came back if he could have went to a winner? And he probably says he probably would have came back, but he also said he couldn't see himself playing anywhere else than Detroit. He wanted to stay and retire in Detroit. And he did. He never went back on his word. He never came out of retirement and played for anybody else. And you got to respect that. So then they go on to, again, Eminem says, or he was shocked that they couldn't retire and stuff. He was like, what the fuck? Tim Allen was shocked because he's from Detroit, I believe. Yeah, he quit by fax, but guess what? I don't blame him. I don't blame him because he was stuck with a shitty organization. Detroit Lions, when he was drafted to when he retired, were not great. They had an all-time great running back in Barry Sanders, one of the all-time greats, one of the greatest I've ever seen do it. Seriously, he's better than anybody I've ever seen. Better than LT, better than Marshall Faulk, better than Derrick Henry, better than a ton of guys, Eddie George, better than every running back in history. Barry Sanders was number one. The guy was one of the most talented, gifted running backs in NFL history. One of a kind. So, check out Bye Bye Barry if you're a sports fan like I am. If you're a football fan, check it out. It's a great documentary. If you're not into sports, well, I don't know. You still check it out. It's still a good documentary. But, man, I loved watching Barry Sanders play. It was so fucking entertaining. Hope you enjoyed this. Let's talk about it. About the documentary just put out about a week ago called Bye Bye Barry. It's on Amazon Prime. And it's a damn good one if you're a football fan and sports fan. So check out Bye Bye Barry, everybody. Bye for now.